Three, two, one, go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and other nerd-related media. Today we have someone's back. Mo, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a minute. How's it going, buddy?
Hello, hello. Glad to be back. I never left from a certain point of view. So
That is true. As we've said since the beginning of the year, when we said you were taking like that hiatus, even if you were gone, you would always be with us because it's something. We've known each other for, has it been 20 years at this point? It's definitely 10 years. Definitely 15. I don't know if 20.
we don't talk about numbers anymore.
We don't talk about numbers, especially because I
Pero
am
sí,
not
sí,
good
sí.
with them.
Technically, yeah.
So
Technically, it's closer to 30 years.
that doesn't make sense. But yeah, we're not gonna discuss numbers because one, at this point in our lives, they are a little depressing because now we're talking about decades and not just years, it's decades. So that's not the most pleasant way to look at how we've come through age. But it
Well, we
hasn't
come
been
to age.
it hasn't been in vain. We've shared lots of good memories and much more to come. So, but before we get started, like, why don't you, Mo? What have you been up to? I know there's been a lot of changes in your life. I know you're starting a new phase in your life.
Yes.
So, everyone, tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you, because I know everyone's dying to know. You're very beloved. So I'm sure all
Thank
the
you,
all the
all
all
of
the
you all.
all the fans would love to know what's going on in Mo's life.
So I've embarked on my new journey of rewriting my own history. Of course, everybody gets to rewrite their history whenever
Mm-hmm.
they want. And I am starting my journey for veterinary school. I am going to combine, everything I've learned and all my passions to, you know, help out animals, big and small, dogs, cats, hopefully horses, cows, everything in the middle. Like
Yeah.
I,
Alaska
I,
Malamutes, because since you love
I,
Chewbacca, you want
yeah,
to do
of
like an
course.
Alaska Malamutes. So you can have
Alaska
like that
Mountain. I
Chewbacca Star
honestly,
Wars connection.
I want to put it out there. I want to one day treat buffaloes. Feel like there's a call there for some reason. They're big, they're hairy. There's that.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. But obviously, we know like you were there in Puerto Rico, so you moved to the West Coast to like start
Yes.
pre-veterinary school, right? Because there's no veterinary schools back in the island that I'm aware of, or is there?
Yet. There's one that waiting like accreditation from the American Veterinary Board,
Mm-hmm.
Medical Association, something like that.
Whatever, yeah, those
Whatever is
guys.
those guys that tell you yes, this school is approved or this school is not approved.
Yeah.
So hopefully Puerto Rico will have veterinary school, but so far it doesn't. It does have good pre-vet programs, which is what I'm starting. So it's weird to be, as we talked, and in later decades of your life, going back to
I mean,
undergrad
but
and all
but
of those.
that but that's awesome, because one, it takes a
Oh,
lot.
it's
I think
super
it
awesome.
it takes a lot of courage, right, to be able to, after you've completed your first round of studies and then starting a career in something. It takes a
Yeah,
lot of courage to kind of say like, "Whoa, I need to stop and look
but
back
to
and be
reassess.
and to let's restart." It's not easy to restart. New beginnings are
Oh
always
no, not at all.
difficult. So kudos, man. Kudos to you for having
Yeah, yeah,
the
it's been
courage, the courage.
it takes and also being grateful, that I have the opportunity and that everybody has the opportunity to,
Well,
stop and be like, hey, I'm going back to school.
that
Like,
is true. Not everyone is able
so,
to do that, so we always have to be
so
grateful
it's
and
yes,
thankful.
got to be grateful for that.
So I'll drink to that. Cheers to Mo and new
Cheers
beginnings.
and new
Uh,
beginnings.
and new beginnings with Triad too. I know we had been like texting like a couple weeks or a month ago or some stuff of like having you come back at some capacity at the triad. We still have to like iron out like what's that gonna look like. But yeah, this is not a one-off return of the Moe. Expect to see Moe back at Triad at some capacity in the future. It's
Yes,
gonna happen,
absolutely.
and we're definitely very excited for the future because this has been a whirlwind of a year. It's been from the highest highs to the lowest lows. I was in Puerto Rico at the beginning of the year, so you and I hung out a lot, and obviously you know a lot of things that had been going on in my life at that point, which
That feels
those
like a
things.
lifetime.
It
Damn.
does feel like a life. It does feel. Honestly, it does feel like a lifetime because I feel like this year's split in two. Basically, it was like pre Star Wars Celebration and post Star Wars Celebration, basically. Because let's just say that pre Star Wars Celebration was not going too hot. I mean, it's not that things were bad. I'm very lucky to say that life is good, right?
Life
But
is good. Life is good.
life is good. You just like want certain things to go certain ways, and when you don't get that, and you don't have anything else to complain about, then you get you get hooked up on the minutia. But after celebration, kind of things started falling in place. I got a new job, so new beginnings there. So I feel like there was a lot we are all finding our renewals too, because Nani started her new journeys a couple of years ago, starting law school, and now she's like at her internship. So she's also going through new beginnings. I feel like there's a lot of renewal in the triad, and it's been a lot of good things. The podcast has been kind of chaotic this year in terms of release schedules and not completing review series and all these things, but that's part of the
That chaos
course.
rule.
Let chaos rule. We had a very stable last year. What was it, 2022? For the most part, 2023 has been a little chaotic, but that doesn't mean that it's been all bad. And let me change the color of the lights because we have to kind of talk about something pretty cool. If anyone that's listening, I had the blue lights in honor of like the subject that we're going to talk about a little later in the episode, but now I switched the lights to be orange because out of the blue, unexpectedly, we got an invitation to go to a premiere that I was definitely not expecting we would get. We got Mando earlier this year. That's a TV show. Obviously, we're always grateful to get those invitations, and we're always humbled. Uh, but I never thought that we were gonna get this
Feel
that
like
we
that.
got, because as
The next
everyone
step.
knows, the next step of evolution, the triad ascends, and everyone knows. And if you don't at this point, you're living under a rock. It's time to find out. There's a fifth Indiana Jones movie coming out, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And we had been speculating for a couple of months and weeks before the lead up to like the premiere of not the premiere, the release of the movie next week, if there was going to be a premiere and if we might be blessed enough to be invited. Then we found out that they were going to premiere the movie at Cannes Film Festival. So once that happened, I'm just like, well, clearly, if they're premiering the movie at Cannes, then they're not going to do a premiere because that's kind of a big deal, right? To do it at the Cannes Film Festival. So that happened. So hopes and dreams quashed. But then a couple weeks ago, I'm on my computer, I'm working, and all of a sudden I got bam, email, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny,
Oh
and
Lord.
oh Lord, sweet baby Jesus, like
Please, baby Jesus.
sweet baby Jesus, pray upon
Seven
me,
pounds laid out.
Lord Carl Sagan. Uh, I was an emotional wreck that day because it was something that I never knew could happen, and I never expect. I mean, obviously I expected a premiere to happen. I didn't expect for a little old triad to be invited to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny premiere in Hollywood, California, and yeah, that was something that happened. It happened 1 week ago today. This is coming out tomorrow, Thursday, but we're recording on Wednesday, so it's been a week since it happened. And at this point, it just feels like a dream. You can see the lanyard over here if you're watching on YouTube.
Yay.
And holy crap, Mo! Uh, I wish that all three of us could have gone because it was such a incredible experience. And one of the things that I was thinking about on the lead up to the premiere was like, who's gonna be there? Obviously, James Mangold, the director, you expect him to be there. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, you expect her to be there. Harrison Ford should be there, right? He's the title character.
Hopefully. But
Uh,
yeah, you never know.
you never know. They might be like, whatever. I'm over
Yeah.
this.
I don't care for this
Grumpy
shit.
Harrison. Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
I'm done.
I got paid. I'm out.
Exactly. So that was like the triad, so to speak, of
Right.
people that I was hoping or praying. Well, yeah, pray. Fine. It's a parlance. We'll use prayer. We can talk about the what that means at some other episode, I guess. But yeah, that was my triad of people that I would have hoped to see in this premiere, and it's like the holy trinity, right? Of Indiana Jones movies, which is Harrison Ford, Steven Spielberg, and wild card George Lucas. I'm just like, if the creator is at this premiere, I'll I'll ascend. And we were there at the premiere, and holy crap, I see Harrison Ford not that far, but like pretty far up in the line for the red carpet. So I'm just like, okay, one check mark. Harrison Ford is here. Saw Mads Mikkelsen, which was incredible. But then all of a sudden, everyone starts yelling. I'm just like, what is everyone yelling about? I look to my left, and bam, there he is, Steven Spielberg.
Oh Lord.
Daddy Spielberg. He was there, and I thought I was gonna have a heart. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. Honestly, I never thought I would see Steven Spielberg in the flesh, and I can't even believe I'm saying that sentence.
You saw Steven Spielberg in the flesh.
Like, what does that even mean? It's just like, what world is this? It's that Steve. Like, I can say that Steven Spielberg and I were like in. I'm not gonna say we were in the same. Well, technically we're in the same space, but I don't want to presume to make it seem that we were. We didn't have eye contact. We have to full disclosure. However,
let's just say you knew.
But
Steven
I knew.
was there.
Yes.
Steven Spielberg didn't know you were there.
He did not know I was there. He might have felt the triad of the Force presence. He might have felt that presence, but he didn't know I was there as a singular human being. But creme de la creme, and then all of a sudden George Lucas also shows up, which, holy crap, saw George Lucas, and he did not look like he wanted to be there. Let's be honest.
He probably didn't want to be there.
This was probably Steven Spielberg and Kathy Kennedy cashing in a favor, being like, "Hey man, you need to be here. This is the last one, and after this, we're not going to bother you ever again." But he looked weird. I have to be honest. I mean, obviously, I know he's an older man now than he was a couple of years ago, and obviously, everyone ages. But he looked like he had lost some weight, and like he never wears the best tailored clothes. But this time, all of his clothes looked particularly baggy, so like he didn't look well kept. So I was a little concerned for old George's health there, but saw George Lucas, saw the creator. And then they had like a little surprise there while we were in the theater before the screening began. Steven Spielberg was doing kind of his spiel, introducing the film and how important it is to like have all the original people that came up with the franchise be here, for this final film. He's talking about George Lucas and then Harrison, and then all of a sudden he says, "Oh, and the maestro that has." Made the score for all of these 5 movies that make them sound spectacular as they sound, whatever. I mean, I'm paraphrasing at this point, but all of a sudden when he says like the maestro John Williams, all of a sudden, because John Williams is not on stage, all of a sudden when he says that, the screen starts coming up and it's a full orchestra that John Williams is conducting, and like I swear I almost died because I never thought I would see John Williams live in my life, and all of a sudden there he is conducting the Raiders March.
Goosebumps.
I still have oh baby jeez, I still have goosebumps thinking about it. But yeah, no, it was Johnny Dubs, as I call him now, because we're friends. It was Johnny Dubs.
Of course.
Johnny Dubs and Spielby, we're best of friends now. We're
all besties now.
We're all besties now. They're coming to try it one of these days. But no, it
was
amazing.
You all had an old fashioned after the whole movie.
Oh yeah, top shelf, obviously. No, but speaking of having drinks after the movie, like have to definitely shout out one of the better parts of the movie, which going to these events, which is, watching the movie and like being there is awesome, but it's always accentuated and made even better when you're there with like really good friends and good colleagues, like in the whole Star Wars Indiana Jones community. And gotta definitely shout out Nikki Kumar from the Imperial Senate podcast, who was there representing Acto Radio. Great to be with him and his sister Priya, Ken Knapsack, Sky Talker, Charlotte and Caitlin, Tori Fox, Savannah, Blast Points, Brandon from Talking Bay 94. Like, so many awesome people that we got to hang out with and kind of share this experience, which is one of those once in a lifetime things. Because even if they make another Indiana Jones, I doubt that John Williams will be involved. Very much doubt that Harrison will be. I mean, man, who the hell knows?
All about the money.
It's all about the Benjamins. But yeah,
All about the bench.
but I think it's gonna be the last time. I think all of the original squad is going to be together to make a film like this. So it's, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it and talking about it. But yeah, we're gonna have a full spoiler discussion next week once the movie comes out. But for now, we're gonna keep our pie holes shut because we want everyone to be able to enjoy the film as it was meant to be enjoyed. I will say, and take this with a grain of salt, because I was in a very suggestible environment. I was in an environment that was very much designed for me to be in an optimistic and positive state of mind. But I definitely did enjoy the film. I think it's definitely, at least for now, I'm going to do a rewatch next week. Pero definitely my third favorite Indiana Jones film, obviously right after Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Because as everyone knows, I'm not a fan of Temple of Doom, but I am a Kingdom of the Crystal Skull apologist. And I do think that Dial of Destiny is better than Crystal Skull, which I'm honestly not that hard. But sorry.
I mean, yeah, that's fine.
Sorry. Listen to our last episode with Alex.
You'll
see why. Chai. Well, I was gonna say something about the movie, but no, that because it's a spoiler, so I won't say it.
No spoilers.
Let's just say that this movie acknowledges every single movie. I'm not gonna say in what capacity because I was gonna spoil some things, but definitely very good. I did feel, to be fair, that it was a little long. I feel that some things started to be like redundant at some points when they were like going after the MacGuffin, but I think they're drops in the bucket in terms of like the whole. I think it was definitely a solid movie. I think I gave it 8 out of 10 or a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd as my review. Maybe I'll update it once I review it. But yeah, Dial of Destiny.
Awesome.
Mo, what are you looking forward to most in Indiana Jones and the Dial? Are you even excited for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
Well, I'm one of those that definitely lives under the rock. Like, it wasn't until like you told me that was
Today's like, oh shit.
no, I was like probably like 2 days ago. So I always enjoyed indie, like growing up. I love greatest, like of the Lost Ark. Like that, it's like one of the second part with like those like 80s movies that your parents will show you, like, oh, this is so cool. Like it was cool, like so some it's always interesting to see. I'm not always a fan of like remaking a franchise and like it gets to the point where like are you just making it for money or are you making it for the art of it?
It's not always either or. Sometimes it's both and.
No. I mean you can't. You obviously you're not separating both. Like they're part of each other. But
it is called the film industry, not the film charity. After all.
True. But like I'll probably go watch it. That's for sure. I'll have my opinions about it.
Of course, as we all do. But as always, the important thing is to be have come from a place of good faith to be able to discuss these things. Because some of the reviews that I've started seeing online are very disingenuous and just in bad. Yes, I think it's bad faith because a lot of them think some of them are hilarious because they say Harrison Ford did a great performance. If this weren't an Indiana Jones movie, this would be a good movie. But because it's an Indiana Jones movie, it's not good. And it's like, oh my god, this is just people that are just like wired to like, no, I'm gonna hate it.
Everything's bad. Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, it's just the Disney soulless cash grab, blah 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 blah. And like now they're like being, oh, King. It's the same thing with the prequels, right? Like when the prequels came out, people hated them, even though it was George Lucas making them. Same thing with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. When it came out, people hated it because it's George and Steven Spielberg taking a dump on your childhood. But now that it's a new one done by Disney, now it's like, oh no no, but you have to do it like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, like George and Steven. And it's just like, you can't win.
Yeah, you can't win.
You can't win because some people just don't want to be open to the experience. They want to be like 30 years old, 40 years old, and sit down with this movie that they saw when they were maybe like 12 or 13 and feel like that. And it's just like, you can't feel the same way when you were a child, especially because when you saw those movies for the first time, you had no expectations and you had childhood naivete. Now you're a desensitized grown ass man or woman or NB person, and you have your baggage, you have your cynicism, you have your expectations, so it will never feel that
No,
way.
of
Which
course
in a
not.
way justifies having new franchises and new films and new stories instead of like reboots and sequels, because with a new story you can feel that way because you don't have any expectations. But anyway, I'm rambling. Let's go to the
Very
topic at hand. This is, after all, I mean, we are doing like our Indiana Jones weeks here, talking about Indy with Alex Damon, and then we're gonna talk about Dial of Destiny with Brandon from Talking Bay 94 in a couple of weeks. But we are at heart a Star Wars podcast, and one thing that I'm actually really looking forward to discussing with you, because it's something we have talked in the past before about, especially with what happened in Rise of Skywalker, and that is the Skywalker lightsaber. One of the most iconic weapons in cinema, one of the most recognizable weapons in not just Star Wars, but whole of cinema. Anakin Skywalker's blade, passed on to his son Luke Skywalker, and then claimed by Rey Skywalker. And yes, she is a Skywalker. The blue blade that started all of this, mythos of the lightsaber, the Skywalker lightsaber, which, as this episode suggests, is the Excalibur, which, like, I kind of feel proud of that pun, even though it might be lame. But I'm getting to my mid-30s, so I guess bad puns are part of that. But yeah, like, I feel like there was a concerted effort in the sequel trilogy to mythologize this weapon even more than it was in the original trilogy, and way more than it was in the prequel trilogy, to like the point where I feel like the intent falls flat, right? It's destroyed in The Last Jedi, but then it's reforged in Rise of Skywalker. I don't know. There's a lot of like mythos here for which we can compare and contrast to Arthurian legend, and then Lord of the Rings a little bit, which we'll get into detail a little bit further on. But to me, it's a concept that kind of falls flat because it's something that really doesn't go anywhere. Mo, how did you feel about the reintroduction of the Skywalker lightsaber in The Force Awakens, and then its subsequent treatment in the sequel trilogy?
Yeah, I mean, it almost felt like forced to me. Always like
Ah.
that whole, no pun intended. The Because if let's go back to where we first got introduced to this lightsaber. It was in Any Hope. We got to see, like, oh yeah, this is your father's lightsaber from back in the Clone Wars. There's nothing special about it except that hey, my dad had a cool lightsaber.
Mm-hmm,
Like,
mm-hmm,
that in itself is a really cool thing. Like, you don't need to mythologize that. That's a core memory itself. Like,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you're inheriting a weapon that's significant and like mythological enough in their world, that in their universe, in the galaxy, that anybody recognizes a lightsaber. But to reconcile the fact that, hey, my dad had this weapon and now I'm getting it, like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you don't. It's almost like, that is the point of mythology, to like bring those core experiences into
Mm-hmm.
your life. But like at this moment, you don't need the mythology because Luke is receiving that
Mm-hmm.
knowledge from Obi-Wan, receiving a physical object, like a representation of it. But then, comes in the Empire Strikes Back, and Luke's gets the hand shot, like loses the lightsaber, and we all assume, hey, that's it. That was the last time anybody will care because next time we see a Luke with a lightsaber, it's the green lightsaber, which is even a cooler color than blue. Hey,
I
don't.
100% agree. Green lightsabers are the best
Green
lightsabers.
lightsabers are the best sabers. so, so like, and then we get the prequels, which obviously reintroduces the lightsaber because obviously we already know that Anakin had that lightsaber. Like that's how Luke gets it. But
Mm-hmm.
there's no concerted effort to make this like a mythological item. Apart from hey, it's a cool item. Like we all inherit cool things from our parents and our families that
Mm-hmm.
has meaning and value. But apart from that, we don't attach like any mythological aspects to it. It's just that cool family heirloom.
Right. Yeah.
And
Oh, sorry. I was gonna add to that, but finish your thought.
no, go for it, go for it.
No, because I was thinking exactly the same thing. Because I mean, I totally agree 100% with everything that you're saying, and I think it's how the weapon right is framed, especially with the original trilogy, but most of all with the prequel trilogy. Which the original trilogy, like you said, like Luke just loses it, and it's a family heirloom which he just loses, and Return of the Jedi doesn't even bother to acknowledge it. It's just like, yeah,
It's
he
like
lost it. It's whatever. Which
like
which
whatever, yeah.
which I think is the poignant thing. It's not the lightsaber; it's the person. And I think that's was the really cool thing about Last Jedi, Return of the Jedi, which is the Luke not reclaiming, claiming his identity, right? By building his own lightsaber that one doesn't look like his father's lightsaber. It's based off of Obi-Wan's lightsaber. So it's based off his mentors. So that goes a long way, right? Into saying something about where Luke sees kind of this legacy as a Jedi, and then the blade is attuned differently. It's green, it's not blue, so it's like again different from which it was going to be blue originally. Nerds, yes, we know that, and they changed it in post production because it didn't contrast with the sky and Tatooine. Yes, we know that, but in the movie it's green. So let's look
And
at
that's
that,
canon. That's fact.
and that's canon. That's fact. I don't care
You
that
cannot you cannot
you
change
cannot.
that.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that like originally it was gonna be blue. And that's why I really like that deleted scene of like Luke finishing building the lightsaber in the cave, because it's just like he's hooded in black and it's just like, oh, did Luke turn to the dark side? What's he doing? It's like doing this new thing with this new blade. So that's the whole point of Return of the Jedi, right? Like Luke claiming his new identity and finding his place in the galaxy by then at the end of the movie kind of rejecting his lightsaber and just throwing it away and being like, oh, you failed, your highness, blah blah blah, I am a Jedi, my father before me. When he defeats the Emperor not through the attack with this Jedi's weapon, but through compassion for his father, which I think is kind of like the whole point of that arc. And then when you go back to the prequel trilogy, they're even more flippant about lightsabers.
They're like, who
Obi
cares? You
Obi
lost it,
Wan
get a new one.
Obi-Wan has 3 different lightsabers during the prequels because he loses his first one in the
Ahsoka
Phantom
changes
Menace.
one every week, every third week.
Exactly. Obi-Wan loses his in the first movie, loses his second one in the second movie, and then obviously in the third one he has like his classic Obi-Wan one. And so does Anakin. Anakin breaks one in the second movie and then so it's just like, yeah, it's just not to say that like a lightsaber doesn't have importance to the wielder of it, because you have to build it yourself and it has to be yours, and you have to attune the kyber crystal to yourself to be able to wield that lightsaber. But the canon never reflects like that there's this mythic power
Yeah, no,
to the
exactly. It's
lightsaber
like
in that legacy sense, like Excalibur or other mythic weapons do. So like to all of a sudden imbue that in the sequel trilogy feels a little distant I don't want to use the word disingenuous, but I'm gonna use it. A little disingenuous, and doesn't pull the trigger in the way that I think the movie thinks it does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like if they, this is the backbone of the Excalibur slash mythical sword template, and they just like haphazardly added
Yeah,
lightsaber elements to, I mean, and then tied it specifically to the Skywalker lightsaber.
yeah, yeah.
Because if it was, they tried to attune that same thing to like the experience of like attuning to the Skywalker crystal and like that process of like being called rather than like finding or being bestowed this
Mm-hmm,
weapon
mm-hmm.
like Excalibur, like the lady in the lake.
Yep, yep,
It's
yep.
like, hey, like like nature bestowing her gifts
Right,
for
which
her.
actually I fairly recently found this out because I did not know this because I always knew that there was Arthur gets a sword, right? By two different means. There's the sword in the stone, and then there's the lady in the lake.
Yeah,
And different accounts call that sword different things, but they're two different swords. But I think the consensus is that they're both Excalibur, but they're different
they're, they're,
Excaliburs.
they're
Is
different. I mean, yeah, it's I mean, but
is my understanding.
Arthur legend is like the Frankenstein of like mythology. Like
It's
it's
like
just
the it's
like
like
the
the X-Men franchise of continuity,
yeah,
basically.
if you watch the animated series, it's this thing. If you read the comics, it's this other thing. If you read the new comics, it's this other thing. Like it all depends. Like there's like two versions of the Lady in the Lake. There's like
Yes, yes. One's evil, one's
there's
good, something like that.
yeah, and like it depends on what you read. Like, but in essence, there is a magic sword that
Yes, yes.
that is supposed to represent, the next king of Britain, whoever is able to hold this magical
Yeah,
sword, and like
and they do treat it that way. To be fair, I mean, even assuming whichever one we want, like let's assume it's the sword in the stone type of thing, where like only the worthy can take it from the anvil or the stone, whichever version you're reading. And I think it was a sword of Uther Pendragon, right? It was like his father's sword that was like,
yeah,
who cares? But yeah, it's the thing about being worthy and to be the king of the Britons, and you remove the sword. That's technically not what Ray does in this one. I think the Ray version is more
as
akin to
it's closer to the Lady in
the
the
Lady
Lake.
of the Lake, because Mas Kanata technically is that Lady of the Lake, right? That
Yeah,
she
we don't know anything about her. Like this is like we just know that she's probably older than Yoda, and like
mm-hmm.
she's still like banging around. Like we know Yoda was like dying in his deathbed.
And
Mas
she's
is just like
chilling.
having fun. Like she's just
Oh
like
yeah,
jumping and like so.
she probably felt Yoda's death, and she's like, oh, whatever, man. I got a couple hundred years on you.
I got. I got time to find somebody else.
I got
Like,
time. I know of a certain Wookiee that I wanna hit up. Pero, yeah. I mean, Mas is technically that Lady of the Lake who's like bestowing the sword to Ray. But what my
it is not even a. They don't even bestow it to Ray. Ray just finds it. It's almost like, oh, you found my hidden treasure.
yeah,
Like,
but like it's the Force that's calling Ray. So in a way, like she's validating that the sword is calling her. So I mean,
yeah,
obviously it's not a one. Obviously, it's not one to
not a
one.
one-to-one parallel. Yeah,
It's a but it's if we want to
it's a
force it,
general template. If you want to, the general template,
it's the
and
general
and and
template. Joseph Campbell might agree. He might agree with us.
you might, but then
Very big might.
but then in the rest of the movie, like you get that scene, and then the rest of the movie, it's just like the weapon to use to defeat the bad guy against the red weapon. Like
I mean,
like until the very end when you get like Kylo being like, "Oh, that's my saber because it's my family."
right. Which I think is something that was interesting in terms of like tying then the sword to legacy and history and then what does that mean? But the problem
But
is in the Force Awakens that means nothing, right? It's just like legacy means kind of nothing because like for Kylo it's just an heirloom and doesn't have power in of itself. And then for Rey, it's just like, well, you're the chosen one, so the sword's calling to you. But
and it's,
why
you
is it
know, you
calling to you? You know?
and you have to like ask yourself like why would this be important to Kylo? Like, it's not like Luke sat around and be like, "Hey, I had this really cool blue lightsaber." No, like I'm sure this was, just a story that if at some point Ben asked like, "Oh, what happened to your hand?" It's like, "Oh yeah, your grandpa chopped it off," and
He chopped off your.
but
Yeah, I mean, the only reason it's important to Kylo is because it belonged to Darth Vader. It belonged to
yeah,
Anakin, and he's like a fanboy, which I think actually pays off in the Last Jedi in that sense, because anyone who's listening to this channel knows that we're big Last Jedi fans, and I think it's the best of the sequel trilogy in terms of like trying to say something,
yeah,
and like being not just like let's reproduce the feeling of Star Wars, but trying to give more meaning to what that mythos was. And I think that it's especially poignant in that fight with like between Kylo and Rey with the Praetorian guards, because it's about that Skywalker legacy, right? Luke rejects the legacy of the blue lightsaber because he's rejecting the Jedi legacy within himself and within his family because he's afraid of what that means. So the whole movie is kind of framing this whole thing of this is the quote that everyone remembers, right? Let go of the past because if you have to. But really, the movie isn't saying that at the end. The movie's saying that, yeah, like accept it, acknowledge it, internalize it, but move past it. Like you've got to like take the things that matter from that and then be able to get rid of the things that don't, contribute to moving in a positive and healthy and a direction of growth, which I think was so brilliant in terms of destroying the lightsaber. Which I think, as opposed to wait, before I say this, did you finish Mandalorian season 3?
yes.
Okay,
Like I'm like,
okay.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to like spoil anything for you. Which I think there's two lightsaber destructions, right? There's the Last Jedi lightsaber destruction, and then there's the Mandalorian dark saber destruction. And one works and one doesn't. And I think that, and we talked about this in our review for the episode in our Mando series. So check that out if you haven't. Link in the description below. Uh, but the destruction of the dark saber in Mando was so flippant because it didn't have any means or importance or acknowledgement to the story after all this setup about what it means mythically and culturally to Mandalorians, and
that's
not
like,
just to Din or Bo or anything. It's like no, to everybody in Mandalorian culture, the dark saber means something. So I'm not against destroying something. I can be an iconoclast. I can go, and support the decision to destroy something. But the act of destruction must mean something. Like V for Vendetta, right? It's not the building. It's not the explosion. It's the symbolism behind the destruction that means something. And like and these moments have to signify something. And when in Mandalorian they destroy it without even acknowledging it, it's just like, oh, okay, well, so nothing. It's anticlimactic. It's cinematic blue balls basically. And the Last Jedi is the opposite, right? Because they destroy because they're fighting over identity. They're fighting over not just light and dark. They're fighting over love. They're fighting over what it means to be a Jedi. They're fighting over legacy. And then that fight is so powerful that it ends up destroying the heart of the lightsaber, which is where the kyber crystal is, which I think is so powerful. But even more powerful than that is in the end when Rey's is holding both pieces of the broken lightsaber, and then she's like, "Oh, how can we build a rebellion out of this?" And Leia just holds her hands and says, "Like, we got everything we need." And it's just like, boom, so poignant because then it's like, yeah, that past can be destroyed. Those icons, those symbols can also be destroyed, but like the meaning within them and the hope that like all these things mean and like the optimism that we have for all these objects are not in the object themselves, are like are they're within us, right? So it's up to us to be able to imbue something beyond that. So that's why for me it was frustrating after like having such a clever destruction of an icon which no one would have expected, right? You don't expect someone to destroy the Skywalker lightsaber after introducing it after 30 years. But then to be kind of disappointed and just see it in Rise of Skywalker, be like, okay, well, I just fixed it. It's
Yeah,
again, it's like instead of going in the direction of like building on top, building layers on top of it, it's just like going back and Mandalorianing it. It's just like, well, you just whatever. It's the same thing with Kylo's helmet. Oh, he destroyed it because he's moving past his Kylo identity into something else. But then Rise of Skywalker is like, oh no, just gonna reforge. Never mind, I'm just gonna reforge my helmet. Same thing with the lightsaber. Oh, we destroyed the lightsaber because what blah 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 X Y and Z. It's like, oh no, never mind. We're gonna just rebuild it. Don't worry about it. Yeah. What did you think about that payoff of the destruction and then the reforging of the lightsaber? Because reforging can be cool, and we'll talk about a movie that did reforging right.
I guess if we talk like strictly to like that Excalibur mythology, it sort of lines up like almost 1-to-1 with like you know the Lady in the Lake, the Nubia story where you know Arthur breaks the sword and Merlin is like, okay, come with me, bring your broken sword and throw it in the lake, and somehow you'll get the reforged sword with all the magical powers. Then I guess mythologically, it kind of makes sense that you have to destroy yourself, like on, up to your very core until you find your core, and then you build back up. But like you said, it's not. I guess physically it could look the same, but if we're mythologizing an item, then there should be like a physical difference. It shouldn't be like a 1-to-1. Oh yeah, yay, it's back together. We fixed it. It
Right.
should be more like,
And we don't see it, right? We don't see like what reforging means.
no, but we do see the end result. It's just like the thing
Nothing.
where
Yeah.
there's like how more cool would have been to that same lightsaber they showed us at the end for Rey to have been shown like throughout the
Right.
story,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
like taking parts of that broken lightsaber and using those parts to combine with their own staff, and
Yeah. Yes.
like
100%.
you said
It was right there. That was a setup. Like it was right there.
like it was just right there. Like, don't leave that to the very end, because
Yeah.
there's no real value to it. You're just putting it there because it's the next logical step, but you're not building towards it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what's kind of like a priority from it, like what loses its touch with the mythology, because it's almost like, yeah, the Last Jedi tried to, like, okay, they already gave me back the saber. Let's just show Luke rejecting the saber. Like, hey, this in my past. This, I don't care about this. Like, then showing like, okay, this is important for the next generation, because Luke is, it's in essence that's what they're showing. But Luke is one generation. Now you have Rey and Kylo, which is
Yeah.
the next, picking up the pieces from, which is what it should have been. Like, Luke throws it away. They pick up the pieces, rebuild
But that's
something new.
I like that, and that's something that like I've always kind of thought about, and I don't know if they didn't do it because they also did a similar thing in Jedi Fallen Order, which Cal Kestis, when he rebuilds his lightsaber, he rebuilds it with both of his master's lightsabers.
Yeah,
So it's just
so
like
cool.
two different hilts, which I'm just like, wow, there it is. So I don't know if that's why they didn't do it in Rise of Skywalker, because they did it in the video game. But I think it would have been poignant. I think it would have been so cool to see Rey start with the yellow lightsaber, kind of like Luke started with the green one at the beginning of Return. It's like, she's okay. No, I let go of the blue lightsaber, the Skywalker lightsaber, because I'm letting go of the past. So I just built my own lightsaber and just doing that. And then there's some point in the movie, right, second act or whatever, when like she's at the lowest of lows, like as as you always have to do in a movie. And then she realized that she can't let go of the past, that she has to kind of make peace with it and be able to claim it and accept it and incorporate it into herself. And but what better way to then, like, if you are going to reforge the Skywalker lightsaber, then why don't you just reforge it as an extension of yourself? And it's just like she has her yellow lightsaber, and then the Skywalker blue lightsaber, and then she has like a staff, like it was set up in the Force Awakens with her staff. A staff double bladed lightsaber, and one ends yellow, and then the other one's blue with like the Skywalker lightsaber, and then it's just like makes sense because
and then they do the whole trick where it combines and it turns green.
And then,
like,
oh shit! No, the world's not ready for that shit. It's like, oh shit! My mind kind of exploded with that. So it's like, oh lord.
I mean, but even now I'm thinking, like, even, sorry to interrupt, but like, even in that sense, the colors, like, green is the combination of blue and yellow. So it's almost like you could have built it up as in, the past is blue, then came Luke, and like combined two things, and then Rey came, then distilled the essence of it and came with like a yellow version, which is closer to like white light. But
yeah.
Until we get like the white saber.
Well, we have white lightsabers, which are like the purified crystals, which we'll see in Ahsoka out on Disney Plus.
Yes,
August 26th.
I forgot about this. Yes,
very excited for that one. But no, that's good. See, I missed you. You have those little like nuggets that also like bam, it blows my mind.
But
because I mean, maybe we'll see it because Star Wars Celebration London, they announced the new Jedi Order film for Daisy Ridley, so Rey's coming back 2026, I think it is, and we're gonna see Rey rebuild the Jedi Order. So ipso facto, we'll see the yellow lightsaber again. But you gotta sell action figures, so like, how is it gonna be different now? And I don't think that they're it has to happen. It has to happen. And like, I don't think that they'll bring back the blue lightsaber because I think let it rest. You buried it. But what if she goes to Acto and she gets Luke's green lightsaber? Because we know it's there.
No, please just stop. And then, new lightsabers.
No, I'm not saying
at this moment.
Don't do that. But
bring back Mace Windu's lightsaber, that's more Excalibur than any other lightsaber out there.
Stop. Okay,
it's the one and only.
Now we're going to dangerous territory.
It's a purple saber. That has to mean something. Like, we've seen blue, we've seen green, we've seen yellow, but there's only one
yellow purple.
There's only one single purple saber, because Samuel Jackson said, "I want a motherfucking purple lightsaber."
And George Lucas like, okay.
Okay, this is kind of no.
But going back to reforging can work, right? Because it worked, it worked in Lord of the Rings.
I guess it works in Excalibur.
Because the shards of Narsil, we see them in the Fellowship of the Ring, and it's the blade that cut the ring from Sauron's hand. But in doing so, Sauron stepped on it, oopsie, and broke it. So it's a broken blade, and the elves keep it in Rivendell. And this is actually one change the movies did, which improved upon on the books. In the books, Aragorn actually gets the reforged Narsil in the first book. Like, before they leave to go, when the Fellowship leaves Rivendell, Aragorn has the reforged Narsil. But in the movies, they switched it to be a little more, epic, of like, oh, I'm reclaiming this piece that makes me, not worthy, but he's already worthy. But like that, it's the mythic sword
it's like the external validation of your inner awakening.
Right, exactly. And the epic scene of like Elrond coming up and being like, "Anduril, flame of the West," and I was like, "Oh shit!" And it's
so powerful because you have Elrond, which is all the time has been like, "Hey, like, leave that guy alone. Like, he's gonna die. He's immortal. Just, we're elves." Like, and then like coming down to like almost like stepping down as just a messenger. It's not even like he's coming as a king of the elves. He's just coming as the messenger. Like, hey,
some guy, yeah.
Here's your magical sword now. It's back.
Because that's another change, right, from the books to the movie, where like in the books, Aragorn is always kind of like, yeah, I'm the heir and I'm gonna reclaim my throne. And the movies they changed it so he can be a little more Jon Snow about it. Like, I don't want it. Like, I'm not worthy. So I'm gonna have his hero's journey of being able to kind of find the will within himself to be like, okay, I'm going to claim what's rightfully,
The throne of thunder.
like the whole kingship thing is always weird,
Yeah, it's
morally
always
and
weird.
ethically. But whatever. It worked in the movie. It works. And the reason for the sword works because it's something that he's been rejecting and something that carries weight, right? It's the legacy of the descendants of Aragorn that did this incredible feat and this sword that has been untouched for millennia because it's so. Uh, oh my god, I'm losing the word, but like this, it's too holy, right, to be able to do anything with it until this moment when it's called upon to be brought back together because its purpose is now greater than its previous purpose, which like thematically and story wise works so well to not just like the sword itself, but to further Aragorn's character growth, right? Because the sword has a personality because it has done things, not just because it has a name, but naming swords is cool, but also because it
Hey,
furthers.
Emil Sid thought of that. Naming
That
swords
is
is really
true.
cool.
That's why Visions Volume 2, Sith by Rodrigo Blas and El Guidi Studios, one of the beautiful. And one of the sword there in that Visions episode is actually based on El Cid's sword, which I'm losing. I forgot the name. Do you remember
I
the
forgot
name
the name.
of El
Let's see.
Cid's sword?
So Solma will, our professor Solma Davila will be like hitting us in the.
Yeah,
How come you
well,
remember that?
guys, whatever.
It's got
It's
some swag. It's been a few decades.
it's been a few decades. I'm sorry, guys, but it has a cool name. But yeah, Narsil or Anduril, as it's called after it's reforged, furthers Aragorn's journey in a way that the Skywalker lightsaber doesn't really do for Rey. Because even at the end,
Ah,
she's just.
la tizona y colada. Tizona y colada.
I was not gonna be able to
Yeah,
remember
I
that
was not
word.
gonna be able to
I'm
remember
sorry.
that at all.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. But yeah, like the Skywalker lightsaber doesn't really do that for Rey. I mean, it doesn't in a. I mean, it doesn't in a hollow way. It doesn't really.
Again,
It's not. It's not organic.
if you grab the backbone of the mythological sword and you try to like haphazardly stack it together, it makes sense. But I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's there, like you know, which is because like it's important. Like at the end, Arthur always returns the sword, and I think
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that's what happens with like Ray. Like Ray returns the sword. So I mean, the lightsaber. So
Well, she doesn't return it because she's not putting it back where she found it. She's putting it somewhere. It's weird because she finds it in a
uh,
random place. We don't get any context about finding it
how
or what it means because, like, yeah, we don't know anything about that
I mean,
type of
for
thing
all we
happening.
know, Mass was just like working down there at the shafts, and the lightsaber just fell on her head and just grabbed it. Like
Right,
we don't
right.
know,
And we
right?
are finding out because they're exploring it in the Star Wars comic books by Charles Soule, but we still haven't gotten to how it got to Mascanada, at least as far as I know. But in terms of the movie, yeah, we have no context for this. Like, why all of a sudden is like the lightsaber doing this specifically with Rey? We don't, especially when she's a Palpatine. I don't know. And then, I mean, the most poignant thing that they could have done with that lightsaber was the destruction of it in Last Jedi. But then, yeah, the follow up is like, it's reforged, but we don't see it being reforged. We see Narsil being reforged in the Lord of the Rings, and it's a big moment. It's like, oh, we have to get this sword back together because it needs to go on this journey now with the wielder of the sword, which is Aragorn. Here's Ray already has it. Whatever, I reforged it. And then she's like, when she's done with this, she's like, okay, well now I'm just gonna bury it. I'm gonna bury it somewhere where the person that wielded this sword, both of them hated. Like Anakin hated Tatooine, and Luke Skywalker hated Tatooine, and she's burying that sword that means apparently so much in a place where both of its wielders hated living. So I don't know. It's weird. Like you said, Mo, they're putting the thing. Like, they're technically the things about what it means to be a mythic weapon are there, but it's kind of in a way that it's just like, okay, I guess
Okay,
it's there.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
cool,
That's like,
cool story, bro. Yeah.
yeah, cool story, but yeah, like put a little bit more effort into it. Like,
Well, you know, you, they did what they could. They did what they could, and unfortunately, like in some pieces, they didn't completely hit a home run. But but hey, but it's still Star Wars, and it's still great, and it gives us so much to talk about. It's been, I don't know how many years since Rise of Skywalker, and we're still talking about some of the things it did right, other things it did wrong, and it's a gift that keeps giving. But
the
we're
gift
not
that keeps
gonna
on
we're
giving.
gonna we're not gonna keep gilding this lily, and it's time to wrap up a little bit. So Mo, do you
Yeah,
have any final thoughts to kind of conclude like our discussion about the Skywalker lightsaber and its relationship mythically with Excalibur or other mythic weapons that we can think of? Because our clearly we're spinning our wheels just with Excalibur because we don't know that many myths apparently.
yeah. No. I mean, the mythical swords that break through, like, become like space and time. Like they've been throughout history. Like it's you know it's that idea that you fine tune your that sword so you can break through the the veil of knowledge and darkness kind of thing. So, but if if I were going to give it like a rating to like how Star Wars used it, I mean, I wouldn't give it past the C. Like
Oh, it's he's a passing grade though.
it's
Yeah.
a passing grade, like because they still tried. Like
You tried.
I really appreciate, like, it's not mythical in the sense of mythical, but it is in the sense of the personal journey, like the way it's used in the prequels and the original trilogy. Like it's a family heirloom. Like it has that meaning. Like we all have families. We all have histories that we compare ourselves to. We strive for. We either or we fight against. Like there's
Hmm.
a bunch of things, like, and there are physical elements that can remind us of those things that we either strive for or want to stay away from. So, like, why? Like, I don't see why you need to push it past that. Like, not everything has to be mythical. Like, the only the things that have to be mythical are those that you cannot so easily represent. But if it's an item of family heirloom that has that power within your family, you don't need to make it Excalibur. Like Excalibur was there for a reason. It's nature telling, like, yes, you are the rightful king of
Yeah.
England or Britain. Like there's nothing special about the lightsaber sword. Like you don't get to be, oh, hey, I'm the leader of the Jedi Order. This is not like Harry Potter where you get the elder one and then it's like the
Right.
best
Right.
one.
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
it's not even that. Like it's just but like not even the dark saber is that. Which, like, it's just a cool looking lightsaber as far as we know. Like it's that idea that you can remake a lightsaber. It's just like an umbrella. Like you lose it, you make a new one. Like it's not like that's what the Clone Wars have shown us. That's like what every other piece of like Star Wars media has shown. It's just like, hey, it's just a weapon. Like you can, yeah, you can name it. You can give it like all your personal power to it, but at the end of the day, that's it. There's
Hmm.
nothing magical about it apart from that connection you make with it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I have nothing to add to that. But with that, I think that's an excellent high point to culminate this discussion about the Skywalker lightsaber and its comparison to its place mythologically within the Star Wars saga and its comparison with other weapons of such caliber. You see what I did there? uh, Mo, always a pleasure. to catch up with you. Very happy to have you back upon the triad, podcasting thing, whatever we call this experience that we share. Definitely looking forward to having you come back in the future. So people that are listening and or watching, stay tuned for that. It's happening probably after August. There's still things to figure out. But yeah, we have been Triad of the Force. Thank you so much for listening, for watching. We definitely appreciate every minute that you watch or listen because it means the world to us. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram,
Hit the
Facebook.
bell.
Do all the things. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave a comment. Comments help boost the algorithm. We
Yeah.
don't know how algorithms work, but but do it because it helps.
Yeah, okay, but if you want to say, you suck, say it.
It's like,
Like,
yeah,
it
do
helps.
it. We probably won't respond to that, but we'll
But do it.
appreciate.
We'll do it for the algorithm.
We'll appreciate you boosting the algorithm for us. But if you want to support the channel, those are some free ways that you can do it. Other ways are liking our posts on Instagram and Twitter. And other ways are going to our T Public store and getting a shirt. Help us pay off
Or a hoodie.
some or a hoodie or a sticker. Help us
And
pay to pay off that flight to LA because it's not cheap going to these things, and we'll definitely appreciate all the help for the channel, and we need new equipment, so every little bit helps. But with that, this has been Goose and Mo of Triad of the Force. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this discussion. Keep tuned for more Indiana Jones content in the next coming weeks. And Nani's eventual return, once like her, case thing that she's working on cools down a little bit. But with that, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us, and may the Force be with you.